Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Do you work in emerging tech, working on something innovative, maybe an entrepreneur? Apply to be a guest at www.coruzant.com/brand. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Itai Green. Itai Green is a globally recognized thought leader, strategist, and speaker specializing in corporate transformation and open innovation. With 25 years of professional experience, including 15 years as a startup founder and executive, Itai has dedicated his career to helping organizations navigate and thrive in an era of accelerating disruption. He is the author of the acclaimed book, Innovation or Elimination: Winning in a World of Constant Change, an executive playbook 2026 published by U.S. publisher Business Expert Press. The book serves as a practical manifesto for modern business leaders, providing proven frameworks for ecosystem mapping, venture clienting, and leveraging emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and generative AI to maintain a permanent competitive edge. Well, good afternoon, Itai. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great meeting you, Brian.
Absolutely, my friend. I appreciate it. Really do. I know you travel the globe. You're a globetrotter. You were recently in Italy and travel Europe all over. I'm in Kansas City, so I appreciate you making the time. If you don't mind, we're going to jump into your first question. You've spent 25 years straddling two worlds, 15 years as a startup founder and executive, and the rest advising global corporations on transformation. What experiences from building companies yourself most shaped how you now counsel large enterprises trying to innovate faster than their own bureaucracy?
When you are a startupist, you are living in a totally different environment than a corporate. You don't have time. You are running out of cash. You have to move fast. And as an entrepreneur, I was experiencing, unfortunately, also really, really bad times where the startup owed me a lot of money. And the startup that I was running owed a lot of money to the employees. So time is an issue. And when you are a startupist, when you are an entrepreneur, you understand that. But when you are a corporate employee or a corporate executive, you're not necessarily familiar with the stress that the potential partner you are dealing with, a startup, is in. And I want to tell you, in most cases, or let's say in many cases, the corporate is negotiating, is dealing, is partnering with a startup, which is under stress, which is totally different, not the situation of the corporate, although these days it's a little bit different, but it's totally different stress. And I think that corporate that is into collaborating with a startup has to realize that there is no other way than to speak the startup lingo, to move fast, to truly tell the startup whether it's interesting and then move fast, or not interesting and not wasting time. So I think being in both parts, I truly realized the stress that the startup is in. And if the corporate my client, the corporate, is into it, is interested, then we had to make the effort to move faster than ever.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you should know this best. Obviously, there needs to be some sort of translation. Being in a startup versus a corporation, that translation is important, especially for the startup, to make sure that messaging gets across to the corporate side. As you know, there is a lot of stress as a startup. Some days you're wondering how you're going to pay your employees, you pay your staff, that sort of thing. So I totally get it. So thank you for sharing. And Itai, your new book, Innovation or Elimination: Winning in a World of Constant Change, frames innovation not as a competitive advantage, but as a survival imperative. What's the moment or pattern you keep seeing across organizations that convinced you the stakes had truly shifted from nice to have to existential?
I think that in the last 3.5 years since GPT came to our life, and Gen AI and Agentic AI, etc., it is clear that the pace of decision-making in corporates is by far slower than the pace of technological change. And once you realize that, together with the deep understanding that your competitors are not stupid, you have no other option than to innovate with external partners. Otherwise, you are dead. You might be dead today, might be dead in a couple of years, but everything is super fast as never before. And the corporate, which is interested in remaining relevant, has no other option than to change its DNA, to move faster, to be open to collaboration with entrepreneurs, with external partners, because otherwise they're not going to exist. And everything is super fast. So either you succeed fast or you fail fast. But it's like never been before. We are living in a time where the mindset of C-level executives has to change, and it has to impact the whole corporate. Otherwise, I really feel sorry for still yours these days. It's really tough. It's really tough. But you need to know how to handle it. And you can look at Salesforce that just changed their business model. They reacted to what surrounds them. So you cannot kind of blind your eyes and say nothing has changed. It's not a case. It's not a case. And it's tough, but it's feasible. It is truly feasible to overcome these challenges by partnering, by collaborating, by willing to fail, also to fail. I mean, in some cases, you're not always collaborating with startups and succeed. Of course, it's a part of the game, but the bottom line is a success if you do it in the right way. And in my book, I was providing the readers, and soon it's going to be also the listeners with an audiobook. I provided them with executive playbook. It's not about theory. It's about best practice. It's about tools. It's about exactly the way to make things happen. And it is based on a lot of experience of corporates running open innovation around the world with startups. And I think it's super practical. And it's, if you read and understand and make it, it's easier than you can imagine. You just need to make it in the right way. It's not an innovation theater. It's innovation that makes your strategy happen.
Thank you. Appreciate that. You're absolutely right. You can't stay stagnant. You have to learn to be able to move on a dime and pivot, innovate. Of course, you need to make sure you have a good strategy, because your competitor, as you said, is not stupid. But I really love you highlighted some things for your book. And I know your book's very easy to read. It's practical. And I highly recommend people reading your book to stay ahead of the game. So thank you. Itai, you've noted publicly that corporate mindset is often the biggest barrier to innovation, bigger than budget, technology, or talent. What does that actually look like inside organizations? And how do you break through it without triggering the immune system response that kills most change efforts?
In the last decade, I'm running open innovation within corporates around the globe. I face that the human factor is the issue that make innovation either succeed or fail, the internal human factor. And at the beginning, like 10 years back, it was difficult to explain truly the sense of urgency. So C-level executives and mid-level will cooperate, will collaborate with the process of open innovation. In the last 3.5 years, it is easier to explain the sense of urgency, because every employee, every manager, every executive, every leader see the pace of change. And there is no other way than to collaborate with this pace of change. Otherwise, you lose your relevancy, not only as a company, but as an individual, as an employee. And I must tell you that, of course, people are different. And I think that, and even in the last few years, when you read analysis and reports by McKinsey, BCG, and others, they tell you that 80% of the issue is the human factor, not technology. Technology is there. Technology is on the shelf. Technology is easy to implement. The barrier, the challenge is the human factor. And the way to overcome it is by engaging the people, by educating. 90% of managers, of executives, are willing to learn something new. And open innovation is new. And of course, there are always 10% that are kind of NIH syndrome, not invented here, whatever is not invented by them is worth nothing. But our goal is to engage people and make them with a FOMO, with the fear of missing out, be open to new things, to new technology, be open to collaborate, be the first one to work with the startup. And the way to make it is in an efficient way is by, I'll tell you the process that I'm running. It's going to be really short. I mean, I meet the senior executive, the VP, the CEO, the chairman, whatever. For 1 hour, I collect the 3 challenges that bother them the most according to the strategy of the company. After 2 weeks, I get back to them with a list of 50 startups, 50. They allocate another 1 hour of the time to rank their level of interest in each and every startup, in each and every technology. And at the end, we meet the VP and the one that reports to, or the CEO and board members, whatever. We meet for a 1-day innovation bootcamp. At this bootcamp, I started always with a 1 or 2 hours lecture to engage them, to tell them what's around them, how to make it, how to truly run open innovation in a proper way with practical tools. After 1 or 2 hours of my lecture, they're engaged, they're stressed, they want to learn. And then 10 different startups are getting into the room one after the other for 30 minutes, 10 minutes speak, 20 minutes Q&A with the VP and its people and so on, 10, 15 people in the room. And the 10 we meet are the 10 that were ranked with the highest level of interest of the VP or the CEO or the chairman. So they are engaged because they provide them with a challenge. They rank the level of interest. They meet those that are mostly interested in. So at the end, they need to take a decision with how many out of the 10 startups that are relevant to their 3 challenges they want to proceed to the second meeting. Would you like to guess with how many on average, after hundreds of boot camps, with how many they want to proceed to the second meeting? 7. And they continue, and at the end of the funnel, they end up with 2 or 3 pilots, which end up in 1 or 2 integrations. This is the statistics. And when you do that process, which is a very easy, simple process, across the company with all the business units, all the corporate units, everyone, procurement, legal, CISO, technology, business unit, whatever, everyone, board, CEO, everyone, after 6 months, you have a completely different company. The people, the leaders understand what innovation is. They understand the sense of urgency. They're engaged. They're open-minded. They move faster than ever. It happens. And it's not complicated. You just need to do it as in the playbook, because the playbook is based on experience. And that's the whole thing.
Amazing. Thank you. And I really love how you kind of unpack that boot camp that you do hold, really to engage and get their level of interest in there. At the end of the day, you want them to be successful. And I do want to highlight one thing. You talked about the human factors being the biggest challenge. And again, that's where you focus on that engagement, that education to get staff fully involved to embrace the innovation. So thank you. And Itai, last question of the day. As disruption accelerates, whether it's geopolitically, technologically, or economically, what does the innovation-ready organization of the next decade look like? And what industries or types of companies do you believe are most at risk of the elimination your book warns about if they don't act now?
I think that the companies that will, let's say, survive and win the situation, will overcome this really chaotic time, are those that are not afraid to try. They are not afraid to fail. They are the first door an entrepreneur knocks on with an idea when the entrepreneur is still in the garage. Those companies that are the first one an entrepreneur knocks on. This is the challenge. When you are there as a corporate, when they knock on your door before they do on other doors of your competitors, you're in a good situation. You are positioned in a very strong situation, a very strong positioning in the ecosystem as an innovation leader, as one that is willing to listen, is willing to consider, is moving fast. This is a reputation to build. And I want to tell you, every company is under risk. Every company. We used to think that only companies that are traditional, that are not techy. But these days, the disruption can happen to anyone. I mean, Wix with 5,000 employees, which is a tech company, was under a true threat of a single entrepreneur startup called Base 44 that in 6 months was able to do what Wix with 5,000 employees does for many years. So 5,000 people were under threat by a single entrepreneur startup. Wix was smart enough to analyze the situation and write a check and buy this company and this talented entrepreneur. And thanks to that, this initiative of Base 44 jumped from $1 million ARR to 100 million ARR in a year. And I think this is an example that not only banks, insurance companies, health, manufacturers, agriculture companies, which are traditional businesses, not only they are under risk, also tech companies, SaaS companies, everyone. Technology is here, moving very fast, is a threat or an opportunity. Depends on the way the executives are managing the situation. I'm aware we are in a tough time. We are in a challenging time for many companies. You have to be the one an entrepreneur knocks on when they have an idea. And I want to tell you something. In a crisis time, and it doesn't matter whether the crisis is from geopolitical, financial crisis like in 2008, Lehman Brothers, or let's say COVID crisis, or any crisis, or SaaS crisis, or the time that we are now at, that with AI, many talents are getting fired, right? This is a crisis time. A crisis time is the best time to run open innovation, is the best time to start a new venture, a new entrepreneurship, new startup, because these talents are not sitting at home doing nothing. They are building the next with the next weeks, the next ways, the next startups that will grow and become unicorns. And the challenge is to make these talents knock on your door as a corporate before they do so with others. So the opportunity these days of a crisis time is a real challenge. You just need to make it in the right way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you definitely impact those threats and opportunities. Depends how you look at things. And I like the example you shared around a CEO was able to make a decision and purchase the startup knowing that that was a threat to their business. And again, every business today, and you talked about it, doesn't matter where, what time, they're ripe for disruption. And you, as a leader, startup or big corporate, you need to be able to pivot in a moment's notice. So I appreciate you unpacking those insights for us today. And Itai,
the best way, if you don't mind, and the best way not to be surprised by an entrepreneur that is building a competition to your company, the best way is not to hire McKinsey, BCG, and so on, because all these companies are based on open data, on open sources. They learn what's around them on any website, databases, etc. But the startups that are going to challenge your company, McKinsey, are not familiar with them. They are still in the garage. They don't have any appearance on any website. They are bootstrapped. They are below the radar. And the only way to be familiar with them before they are online is by positioning your innovation door, your innovation manager door, as the first one for entrepreneur to knock on and ask for an advice and consult. And it is by far cheaper and more effective than hiring all these strategic companies, which are great and with smart people, but not with regard to innovation and to prevent from being surprised. Being surprised is a true threat. You have to know about what surrounds you in the ecosystem before your competitors.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And I really appreciate the insights. And Itai, it was such a pleasure to have you on today. And I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brian, for your time and for hosting me here.
Bye for now.